Hey! So, last week I posted this video on my Instagram, and it's gotten a lot of positive response from you guys. So today I decided to take you behind the scene to show you how I made it here in my tiny studio. Let's go. My toolbox is pretty lean, I would say. I work with Quill for modeling and animation in VR. Then I export into Blender for lighting and rendering and Final Pixel and some detail work. This just depending on the initial idea that I had. But for this project, I was actually provided by a concept art made by Adam Volker. You should check him out. He is the client and the art director of the project, which was amazing to be a part of. So I took the concept painting and went right into VR. I choose this workflow because working in VR is very much like working in your sketchbook. You're practically starting very loose at the beginning, trying to define this wireframe of a character that you have, and then slowly define the volumes and the masses in the scene. I'd like to stay loose in this phase, and then later on, slowly through push and pull, I can get the proportions. But as you can see here, I'm starting to define the volume of the head to get as close as possible to the reference. I love it when the stroke works out on a first try. Gradually building up details all around. Changing my pace a bit over here and trying to figure out a game plan for all the details on the horns. I have to admit, the details in the original reference were a bit intimidating at first. Unfortunately, I couldn't record the whole process of building up the head, but as you can tell here, every surface is a collection of a handful of strokes that make up the whole mass. I tried to stay faithful to all the details that Adam included in his painting because I truly believe that the details in that painting gave it its sketchy characteristics. And Quill is the best tool to preserve these details. And moving on to building the arm. By the way, the work files for this demo are available on my Patreon. I will include a link in the description of the video. I think you should check it out. That hand came out very gestural and expressive. I was really happy with it. A little bit of shading and a little bit of contour line to help define the fingers here. Set building in Quill is a fun process because it feels productive. It goes by quickly, and I keep the buildings simple by design because they will get another details pass in Blender later. We'll add a gentle gradient from top to bottom, and before you know it, you have a building. And sure, I will be doing some lighting in Blender later, but I usually like to bake in some basic lighting on my elements. And now that the character and the set are done, we move into animation. Quill offers this neat animation technique called anim brush, which is mainly making a mark as the record button is on. It could also be used to puppeteer objects, just like that. I thought it was hilarious that Adam included the pixelated sunglasses on top of this monster. So I decided to have fun with it too. And now we arrive at the most traditional way of animating, which is frame by frame, where you get to draw / sculpt every pose to your liking down to the smallest detail. I truly love this method because it frees me from the limitations of the, let's call it, traditional CG rig. It lets me pose beyond the capability or limits of the rig. And it allows me to push the shapes beyond the anatomy into, let's call it, an abstract of the anatomy of the character. Some of these shapes didn't end up making it into the final cut because they felt like they softened the action, so I had to edit them out. Moving into Blender, I export everything in Alembic and then I bring them in for another pass of details. The purpose here is to preserve the illustrative qualities of the original concept art. And so I lean heavily on the concept art at this stage. I try to find the most suitable areas in the painting where I can add some highlights, some extra shadows, some details without being distracting from the foreground elements. And accuracy, physical accuracy, is not really the interest or the end goal here. My main focus is to remain as true and faithful to the style and the sketchiness and the looseness of the original concept art. It's all about maintaining that tactile feeling to the final picture. And now I bring the monster and I'm just giving it a simple shader to reveal the colors that are baked in from Quill. Just making sure that everything's working. And just like with the set, I'm going to use the GP Sketch tool to enhance and add more details and textures to the monster. Certain level of details are much easier dealt with in Blender than in Quill. Just like you're seeing here, it's just adding on that extra 10% that would make the illustration pop a little more. This phase is so much fun, you could easily overdo it if you're not mindful of what you're going for. That's why many of these strokes didn't end up making it into the final picture. The shapes between the buildings felt a little too rigid and perfect, so I decided to break up those shapes with some greenery using the same tool. This part here I'm very proud of because it came out of a lot of experimentation. I was having a bit of a hard time trying to add some depth to the shapes. So I came up with this neat solution where I duplicated the geometry and gave it a dotted shader to make the final product look like this. So that's how I did it, you guys. I really hope you found this video helpful or inspiring at least. Do get the work files, play around with them and see how I constructed the look. And this is my first demo video I've ever made. So I would love and appreciate some feedback. If you feel like you want to see something more, please let me know. Any comment is very helpful. All right? Have fun.